Hello, you're watching A News. I'm Dilek Tuna. Here are the headlines. Trump orders 2 nuclear subs to be moved closer to Russia. The United Nations Security Council convened to discuss recent strikes against Ukraine. US envoy Steve Witkoff visited Gaza to inspect aid sites amid a deepening humanitarian crisis. President Trump has ordered 2 nuclear submarines to new positions after threats from former Russian leader Dmitry Medvedev. With a tightened ceasefire deadline on Ukraine's war, the US and Russia exchange serious warnings as global attention intensifies.
Amid rising social media tensions between Trump and Medvedev, the US president has ordered 2 nuclear submarines to reposition in the appropriate regions. The move, announced on Trump's Truth Social platform, was in direct response to what he called highly provocative threats from former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. Trump warned that while he hopes the comments were just words, words can lead to unintended consequences.
No, the nuclear submarine.
Oh yeah, well, we had to do that. We just have to be careful. And a threat was made, and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people.
This follows Trump's newly shortened deadline for Moscow to end its war in Ukraine, cutting it from 50 to 10 days and warning of sanctions if no ceasefire is reached by August 8th. Medvedev, now deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, fired back online, accusing Trump of playing a dangerous ultimatum game and warning that each threat brings the world closer to war. While the Kremlin says its military operation in Ukraine will continue, it has yet to respond directly to the submarine deployment. Trump's announcements have unsettled Russian markets, with Moscow's stock exchange taking a notable hit. The US has not disclosed the submarine's exact locations or capabilities, consistent with military protocol. But both countries maintain the world's largest nuclear arsenals, with submarines playing a key strategic role. Tensions between Trump and Medvedev have escalated sharply in recent days, and with nuclear submarines now in motion, the world is watching closely.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says Moscow remains open to more peace talks with Ukraine, but emphasized that the war's momentum is in Russia's favor. His comments follow US President Donald Trump's warning that new sanctions will be imposed on Moscow and countries buying its energy exports unless Russia takes steps to end the war by the 8th of August. Putin, who says Russian forces are advancing along the entire front line, added that Russia's conditions for a truce remain unchanged.
Yes, these conditions have certainly remained the same. These are not conditions. These are goals. I have formulated the goals of Russia. Until now, until that moment, we were told that it was unclear what Russia wanted. We formulated them last June at a meeting with the leadership of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation. Everything is clear there, but the main thing is to eradicate the root causes of this crisis. This is the main thing.
The United Nations has held a high-level Security Council meeting on the war in Ukraine. Officials warned of escalating civilian casualties and renewed calls for a ceasefire and diplomatic solution.
The situation in Ukraine has sharply deteriorated after a deadly wave of missile and drone strikes on Kyiv killed at least 31 people and injured over 150, including 16 children. The United Nations Security Council met to address the growing crisis and discuss steps to achieve the peace. The US repeated its warning that time for diplomacy is running out.
In light of Russia's intensified aerial assaults on Ukraine and the increasing toll on civilian life, on July 29th, President Trump clearly stated a peace deal must be done within 10 days. Otherwise, the United States is prepared to implement additional measures to secure peace. President Trump is offering both Russia and Ukraine a way out of this conflict. Once again, we implore them to take it.
Ukraine's representative said the attacks are part of a deliberate campaign to terrorize civilians and blamed foreign military support to Moscow for prolonging the war.
Once again, the world witnessed Russia's response to our desire for peace, shared with the United States and Europe, with new killings and more destroyed homes. It is a deliberate campaign to terrorize civilians and destroy any notion of normal life in Ukraine.
Russia denied targeting civilians and accused Kyiv of manipulating the Council to maintain Western backing. The UN urged all parties to commit to a full ceasefire and return to talks.
US envoy Steve Witkoff visited Gaza to inspect aid sites amid a deepening humanitarian crisis. Blake Sifton has more on the situation from Tel Aviv.
U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, along with U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee, visited Gaza on Friday in order to inspect aid distribution sites and assess the situation as the starvation crisis in Gaza worsens. Now, their visit comes after President Trump appeared to break with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier this week when he acknowledged that there is real starvation in Gaza. The Israeli leader has said that there is no starvation in Gaza and that it is simply Hamas propaganda. President Trump also said that the U.S. would work with Israel to open additional aid sites in Gaza and that he will finalize his plan once he's heard from his two envoys. While they were in Gaza today, Friday, Huckabee and Witkoff visited an aid distribution site in Rafah operated by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Now, this is that very controversial American and Israeli-backed organization that began distributing aid in Gaza in May when Israel ended an 80-day total blockade on all aid entering Gaza. At the time, they said this new group and new mechanism was put in place in order to prevent Hamas from stealing aid. However, in the last 3 months, we've seen near daily deadly incidents of violence in which Palestinians seeking aid have been shot and killed at sites run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, both by Israeli forces and by American military contractors who operate the sites. The United Nations says that 859 Palestinians have been killed at these Gaza Humanitarian Foundation sites in just the last 3 months alone. Now, whether Trump's plan to get new aid into Gaza is simply an expansion of the operations of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation or a new mechanism entirely remains to be seen. Blake Sifton for A News in Tel Aviv.
In a historic landmark for Regional Energy Corporation, Azerbaijani natural gas is now flowing into Syria through a newly opened pipeline in Turkey's Kilis province. Leyla Rahimli has more on this story from Kilis.
We are in Turkey and Kilis now. It is a historic day for Regional Energy Corporation and diplomacy. For the first time ever, Azerbaijani natural gas is flowing into Syria, officially marking the start of gas exports via Turkey's Kilis province. This is not just a new trade route, it is a powerful symbol of shifting alliance and growing energy diplomacy in the Middle East. The pipeline connection, launched today on 2nd day of August, delivered 3.4 million cubic meters of gas per day, enough to meet the needs of nearly 5 million Syrian households. Energy experts say that this is not just help stabilize Syria's war-damaged energy infrastructure and kickstart wider reconstruction efforts. But what makes this moment even more significant is the political backdrop. The gas deal follows months of strategic dialogue between Azerbaijan and Syria's transitional government, including 2 meetings this year between President Ilham Aliyev and Syria's transitional president Ahmed al-Shara, one in Antalya in April and another one just last month in Baku. These engagements laid the groundwork for what is now being called a new phase of cooperation between Baku and Damascus, expanding from dialogue to strategic partnership with the energy and its core. Following the initial contacts, Azerbaijan showed early support for Syria's territorial integrity and sovereignty during its transitional period. In May, President Ilham Aliyev sent Deputy Prime Minister Samir Sharifov to Damascus to explore reconstruction energy, cultural and educational collaboration. Now the gas flow represents the first real outcome of those talks and signals Azerbaijan's intent to play a broader role in the post-conflict stabilization efforts across the region. Currently, Azerbaijan has reached 12 European countries, but this Syrian road through Turkey is Azerbaijan's first active pipeline access into the Middle East, marking a turning point in Baku's energy export geography. And it is also a step toward energy market diversification. If the Syria-Jordan gas pipeline previously damaged during the conflict is restored, Azerbaijan could potentially reach Egypt, opening a southern corridor into North Africa. This is not just only boosts Azerbaijan's global energy profile, but also adds a new dimension to regional diplomacy. Baku now positions itself as a neutral, reliable energy supplier and a bridge between Europe and the Arab world. It is worth noting that Azerbaijan is also increasing its electricity production, particularly through renewables. This is mean green energy exports to the Middle East may follow further deepening ties with Syria as it rebuilds its power grid. In short, today's gas launch is more than just a technical milestone, it's the beginning of a wider transformation. And this is Leyla Rahimli reporting from Turkey, Kilis for A News.
Now, to unpack this development, I'm joined by Yashar Sarı, Director of Haydar Aliyev Center for Eurasian Studies at Ibn Haldun University from Istanbul, Turkey. Welcome to the program, Mr. Sarı.
Thank you for the invitation.
Now, what are the strategic or economic motivations behind Azerbaijan's decision to export gas to Syria at this time?
Syria has a long-time civil war and its energy infrastructure suffered extensive damage due to this civil war. So need the natural gas because of those all facilities is destroyed. So need to have the natural gas from the outside. And Azerbaijan, through Turkey, decided to provide natural gas. Of course, this decision is not only economic decision, but also has a political and diplomatic mean, and also a long-term effect on relation in this region. This pipeline, this gas transportation agreement signed between Turkey, Syria, Azerbaijan, and also Qatar involved this process, and using natural gas from the BP control the area reserve, so that way we can include also Britain.
Okay. And how might this new energy link influence regional power dynamics, particularly among Turkey, Russia and Iran?
First thing is providing the natural gas to Syria is short term, providing this natural gas in northern part of the Syria, kind of providing generating electricity to power around the 5 million households who are living in this part of the Syria. Second thing is the providing this Azerbaijan playing very important role, both to supporting Turkey's position in Syria, but also playing a kind of moderator role between Turkey, Israel, between Syria and Israel, and so on. So that way, Azerbaijan will have bigger prestige, at least we can say. But in the short term, the cooperation among these countries, Azerbaijan, Turkey, Syria, and Qatar, will have the positive influence on the Turkey's position in the region. And the second thing is to increase the role of the Azerbaijan to providing the peaceful atmosphere and the condition in this region too. Long term, the effect is this cooperation may be a beginning of the regional economic integration. let's not forget, if the Syria have fully controlled its own territory, Syria government, control their own territory, peaceful condition established, and the neighboring countries agree in a certain point, then the pipeline can be built from the Qatar to Iraq and Syria to Turkey. So that way, this region become a kind of energy hub region. So that is the long-term effect. Is the one is the economic. The long-term another effect is the creating a peaceful atmosphere in the region.
Okay. And what broader impact could this deal have on regional cooperation and future energy partnerships in the Middle East?
So already Azerbaijan playing very important role to providing the energy sources to European countries, especially after the war in Ukraine. So because of the long time, European countries, especially Germany and the countries closest to Germany, they depended on the Russian natural gas and oil. But providing this kind of pipeline system and turning the Azerbaijan is starting from the Caucasus, then we can even go to the other side of the Caspian Sea, which we know that recently Turkmen leader Berdimuhamedov visited Azerbaijan. So this region, Azerbaijan, especially Azerbaijan and Turkey, become the energy hub for the connecting the Middle East, Caucasus, Middle East, Caspian sources with the European consumers. So that way to increasing the economic activities, turning region to cooperate each other. The other, the effect may have positive effect is to the increasing the role of the corridors. One corridor is the middle corridor, which is the Chinese led the project Belt and Road Initiative, and as well as the development corridor, which is starting from the Gulf region, Basra, to passing the Iraq, and maybe they include the Syria too. So that way, this project is a kind of sign of the economic transition, economic cooperation. Hopefully, in the future, will turn the economic integration of the countries, and all actors who involved in this process will benefit.
Okay, Mr. Sadr, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. Iranian President Masoud Peshkan has acknowledged his country's failure to build strong ties with neighbouring Azerbaijan. During a visit to Zanjan, Peshkan said Iran bears responsibility for the lack of stable relations with what he described as a brotherly nation, citing shared religious and cultural ties. He emphasised the need for unity among Muslim countries, especially neighbours, to prevent external interference and promote regional stability. Reflecting on his recent visit to Azerbaijan, Peshkan questioned why Iran has failed to develop close ties, while countries like Israel have gained influence there. He concluded that the shortcomings lie in Iran's own policies and called for introspection to improve relations with Azerbaijan. Iran and Pakistan are moving to deepen ties across politics, trade and border cooperation. Tehran says boosting regional links is a priority, with President Masoud Peshkan set to visit Pakistan soon at the invitation of Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif.
President Peshkan is set to visit Pakistan upon invitation of Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif for a two-day visit, according to Mehdi Sanai, the political advisor to Iranian president. In a post on his X account, Sanai wrote, "Relations between the two countries have political, economic, religious, and cultural dimensions. The development of provincial and border cooperation and the promotion of exchanges from the current $3 billion are among the goals of the visit." The Iranian president is scheduled to arrive in Lahore, provincial capital of Punjab, to visit the tomb of the prominent politician and poet Allama Iqbal and will fly to federal capital Islamabad to meet Pakistani President, Prime Minister, and Chief of Army Staff of the Armed Forces on Sunday, according to IRNA news agency. Tehran and Islamabad share a history of close relations marked by frequent high-level visits between top officials, focusing on bilateral ties, particularly in economic and commercial areas, also addressing regional security concerns and shared interests in Middle East and South Asia. Pakistani Prime Minister Sharif visited Iran last May in his second official visit to Tehran in less than a year. Iran was the first country to recognize independence of Pakistan in 1947, and their foreign ministers regularly exchange views on phone and at the regional and international events. This is President Peshkan's first official visit to Pakistan after he took office in 2024. Suraj Shiralilu, reporting for A News TV, Tehran.
In Kabul, environmental cooperation took centre stage as Afghan and Kyrgyz officials met to explore new avenues for joint action. Our Afghanistan correspondent Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
Matiullah Khalis, the General Director of Afghanistan's National Environmental Protection Agency, held talks with Turdakon Sedikov, the ambassador of Kyrgyzstan, to discuss regional collaboration in combating climate challenges. The two sides emphasized the need for sharing technical expertise and experiences to protect their fragile ecosystems. Mr. Khalis stressed that collective regional action is key to safeguarding natural resources and promoting sustainable development. Kyrgyz ambassador echoed the sentiment, reaffirming his country's support for Afghanistan's environmental initiatives. The meeting comes at a time when Afghanistan is grappling with the severe consequences of climate change. According to the International Organization for Migration, nearly 5 million people in Afghanistan have been affected by climate-related disasters so far this year. Flash floods and avalanches in the first 3 months alone displaced around 175,000 people, nearly 80% due to climate events. Another 396,000 were forced to migrate due to worsening conditions, especially in rural areas. The United Nations reports that many families have lost their homes and are struggling to access clean drinking water. Afghanistan ranks among the 10 countries most vulnerable to climate change. Officials say that without sustained regional cooperation, the environmental crisis will continue to deepen. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
The Anaka deep-sea port saga has taken another turn. Washington's International Arbitration Tribunal has sided with the Georgian government, again, this time rejecting claims by foreign investor linked to the project. The Justice Ministry says this proves the state acted lawfully, but the opposition isn't convinced. Here's more.
Mamuka Khazaradze and Badri Japaridze have suffered from another legal blow over Anaka port case, this time in Washington. According to Georgia's Ministry of Justice, the World Bank's Arbitration Center ruled in favor of the state, rejecting all the claims brought by Dutch partner Bob Mayer. The tribunal found that the investors failed to raise necessary funds, missed key deadlines, and carried full commercial risks for the project. It ruled that the government was right to cancel the contract and had supported the port's development all this time. As a result, Bob Mayer now must pay $6.5 million to the Georgian government after already losing $1.5 billion case in Paris arbitration last year alongside Japaridze and Khazaradze. The ministry insists that this proves there was no government interference in Anaka's failure. It also says that the legality of the money laundering case against Khazaradze and Japaridze was not questioned. But the opposition party, Lelo Strong Georgia, disagrees, calling the government statements misleading. They claimed that the Anaka's project was killed 6 years ago on Russian orders and argued that this case was strictly between the investor and the state. Just a couple days ago from prison, Hazaradze called the cancellation of Anaka the anatomy of treasury, arguing and accusing the ruling Georgian Dream Party that they blocked the project that could turn Georgia into a key regional hub. This case raises questions about investors' confidence and whether Georgia will ever revive this project. It's Nini Nikolaishvili reporting from Tbilisi, A News.
The first meeting of the Turkish Parliament's Commission on the Disarmament of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, also known as the PKK, is scheduled for the 5th of August. The Commission, which will include deputies from all parties represented in Parliament, will work on developing the legislative framework for the PKK disarmament process. The party, outlawed and recognised as a terrorist organisation in the country, announced its intention to disband in May 2025. Joining us now to unpack this is Özgür Güven, a sustainability and energy expert. Mr. Güven, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us.
So what's the primary goal of the new Parliamentary Commission on PKK Disarmament, and how does it plan to achieve it?
Well, this committee is mainly actually the first job is to witness the PKK laying down the arms, dissolving itself, recording all this process, and while doing this, they will be very in close cooperation with the security forces, both the Turkish and the Iraqi forces. That will be the main agenda of the committee.
Okay. And President Erdogan has called this the beginning of a terror-free Turkey. From your perspective, how realistic is that vision after decades of conflict with the PKK?
I mean, I am 50 years old, so I was a child when this all started, this terror started. I was a child, so I witnessed all of it from day one. And to be honest, I think everybody in Turkey is hoping for a good end on this, and this committee will definitely, since it's been involved with all political parties in the parliament, and they all will contribute to it. They are, from what we see, they are all willingly to cooperate, and they all have ideas to contribute and then to make a final advice to the Speaker of the Parliament for this progress. And as a citizen, as a Turkish citizen, I'm very optimistic that we will see a good end this time.
Okay. All right, Mr. Sutter, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Turkish archaeologists have uncovered a well-preserved council house in the ancient city of Laodicea, which is over 2,000 years old. It's believed to have served as a key political and judicial centre during the Roman era.
Hidden under the soil of Western Turkey, a 2,050-year-old building has been uncovered, believed to be the main council house of the ancient city of Laodicea. And now, archaeologists have revealed one of its most important public buildings, a bouleuterion, where city officials gathered to make political and legal decisions. The building has a rare design, pentagon-shaped outer walls that form a hexagon inside. Names carved into the 17 rows of seats identify council members and local leaders, offering a direct link to how the city was governed.
We're talking about a 2,050-year-old structure. Considering it remained in use until the 7th century CE, this monumental building served Laodicea continuously for approximately 750 years, functioning simultaneously as an administrative hub, governmental centre, and judicial complex.
Now, nearly 2,000 years later, this ancient council house is once again open to the world, helping us understand how the people of Laodicea lived, ruled, and kept order.
And that's all we have from Baku for now. Stay tuned to A News for more updates, and have a lovely day.